Welcome. You are watching Spirituality Joy, a channel where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding. If you are here for the first time, welcome home. If you have been with us before, thank you for coming back. Today, we are going to a place where science and the sacred are not opposites. They never were. 4 words, written in Sanskrit, roughly 3,000 years ago. Sarvam Khalv Idam Brahma. All of this is one. Now here is what one of the greatest physicists in history wrote. Not in a philosophy book, but in his scientific writings, while actively developing the equations that govern quantum mechanics. The unity and continuity of Vedanta are reflected in the unity and continuity of wave mechanics. That was Erwin Schrödinger, Nobel Prize winner, the man who gave us the wave function, the mathematical backbone of quantum physics. He was not the only one. What you are about to hear is not a theory. It is documented history, verified quotes, confirmed laboratory results, and it will change the way you think about what ancient India actually knew. Let us start with the facts, because the facts alone are extraordinary. Erwin Schrödinger, who developed wave mechanics in 1926, was a devoted student of the Upanishads. He kept a copy of the Hindu scriptures at his bedside. According to his biographer Walter Moore, he read books on the Vedas, yoga, and Sankhya philosophy, and ultimately came to believe them. In his book, What is Life?, one of the most influential science books of the 20th century, Schrödinger wrote directly, "From the early great Upanishads, the recognition, Atman equals Brahman, the personal self equals the omnipresent, all-comprehending eternal self, was in Indian thought considered the quintessence of deepest insight into the happenings of the world." He was not quoting the Upanishads as poetry. He was saying they described the same truth his equations were pointing at. Werner Heisenberg, inventor of the uncertainty principle, met the Indian Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore in 1929. Historian Fritjof Capra documented that this introduction to Indian thought brought Heisenberg, and I quote, "great comfort." Heisenberg later stated plainly, "Quantum theory will not look ridiculous to people who have read Vedanta." That is not a casual remark. That is one of the architects of quantum mechanics telling you that the philosophical framework of the Vedas is the correct one for understanding what his own equations mean. Then there is Niels Bohr, the man who gave us the foundational interpretation of quantum mechanics itself. Bohr was quoted as saying, "I go to the Upanishad to ask questions." And J. Robert Oppenheimer, the director of the Manhattan Project, the man who built the first atomic bomb. He learned Sanskrit at Berkeley University specifically to read the Bhagavad Gita in its original language. He called the Gita Madhuitand, and these are his exact words, "the most beautiful philosophical song existing in any known tongue." He kept a worn copy of it on his desk throughout the war. And when he witnessed the world's first nuclear explosion on July 16th, 1945, the words that came to his mind were from the Gita. "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." 4 of the most consequential physicists in history all turned to ancient Indian texts, not as a hobby, as a framework for understanding what their science was revealing. The question is, why? To understand why these men kept returning to the Vedas, you need to understand what quantum mechanics actually discovered. In 1801, Thomas Young demonstrated that light behaves like a wave. It creates interference patterns, just like 2 ripples on water crossing each other. A century later, Einstein showed that light is also a particle. It comes in discrete packets called photons. Wave and particle, both true, at the same time. Then came the experiment that broke classical physics entirely. Fire electrons, individual particles, one at a time, at a barrier with two slits. Do not watch which slit they go through. On the screen behind, an interference pattern forms. The electron somehow passed through both slits simultaneously as a wave and interfered with itself. Now put a detector at the slits, just to record which one the electron uses. Do not change anything else. Just observe. The interference pattern vanishes. Instantly, the electron now behaves like a particle and goes through one slit. The act of observation changed the physical result. Richard Feynman, arguably the greatest physicist of the 20th century, called this the central mystery of quantum mechanics. The measurement does not just record reality. It participates in creating it. Now here is what the Upanishads say. The ancient doctrine of Drishti Srishtivada, developed in the Advaita Vedanta school, holds that perception and the perceived reality arise together. The observer and the observed are not two separate things. The act of consciousness and the manifest world are in a relationship of co-arising. Classical Western philosophy had no category for this. It was built on the assumption of a world that exists independently of any observer. Vedanta had spent 3,000 years examining the relationship between consciousness and reality. The physicists were not discovering Eastern philosophy. They were arriving at the same place from a completely different direction. Before we go further, if what you are hearing is opening something in you, a sense that the ancient and the modern are speaking the same truth in different languages, please take one moment right now. Give this video a thumbs up. It lets us know this kind of content matters to you, and it helps Spirituality Joy reach more seekers who need to hear this. If you are not yet subscribed, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you never miss a video where we bring ancient wisdom into the light of today. And share this video with one person in your life who loves both science and spirituality, because this video was made for them. Now, let us talk about the experiment that won the Nobel Prize and what it proved about the nature of reality itself. In 1964, physicist John Bell proved something that should have been impossible. He showed mathematically that if quantum mechanics was correct, then particles that have interacted remain connected in a way that has no classical explanation. Measuring one particle instantly determines something about its partner. No matter how far away that partner is, no signal needs to travel. The correlation is instantaneous. Einstein called it, and these are his exact words, spooky action at a distance, and refused to believe it for the rest of his life. In 1982, physicist Alain Aspect at the École supérieure d'optique in France ran the definitive experiment. He created pairs of entangled photons and measured them at separate detectors. The results, confirmed to over 100 standard deviations of statistical certainty, showed exactly what Bell predicted. The universe is non-local. Separation is not fundamental. For this work, Aspect shared the 2022 Nobel Prize in Physics. Now, the central concept of the Upanishads is Brahman, the singular, undivided reality that underlies all existence. In Vedantic philosophy, the separateness of objects is real at the level of ordinary experience. But at the deepest level, all apparently distinct things are expressions of one reality. There is no ultimate separation. The Chandogya Upanishad states, Sarvam Khalv Idam Brahma. All of this is indeed Brahman. There is also the image of Indra's net, found in the Atharva Veda and later Vedantic literature. Imagine an infinite net stretching in all directions. At every node of the net hangs a jewel. And every single jewel reflects every other jewel, perfectly, completely, without any signal passing between them, no delay, no distance. The reflection is instantaneous because the apparent separation between the jewels is not the deepest truth about them. Indra's net was written thousands of years before John Bell formulated his theorem. But the logical structure, separate appearing objects that remain fundamentally connected with correlations that transcend spatial separation, is the same. This is why Schrödinger wrote, "The multiplicity is only apparent." This is the doctrine of the Upanishads. And why Heisenberg wrote, "Quantum theory will not look ridiculous to people who have read Vedanta." The physics caught up to the philosophy. Physics today has one great unsolved problem. We have two theories, each the most precise in the history of science within its domain. Quantum mechanics governs the very small, atoms, particles, fields. General relativity governs the very large. Gravity, space-time, cosmology. They are mathematically incompatible. Every attempt to unify them, string theory, loop quantum gravity, twistor theory, is searching for the same thing, the single underlying reality from which both frameworks emerge. The Vedas have had a name for that underlying reality for 3,000 years, not as a substitute for the mathematics. The equations still need to be written, and no ancient text will do that work. But as a conceptual orientation, Vedanta offers something Western scientific philosophy has historically lacked: a native, primary framework in which unity is the starting point, not the goal. Schrödinger's biographer Walter Moore put it directly. His system, or that of the Upanishads, is delightful and consistent. The self and the world are one and they are all. This is the Vedantic equation, Atman equals Brahman. The individual self and the universal reality are, at the deepest level, the same thing. Physics calls the equivalent goal a theory of everything. Here is what I want to leave with you. The standard story of human progress says we moved from superstition to religion to philosophy to science. Each stage superseding the last, the past always less than the present. But what we have seen today is different. The men who built quantum mechanics, Schrödinger, Heisenberg, Bohr, Oppenheimer, did not look at the Upanishads and see primitive thinking they had surpassed. They looked at them and saw a framework their own mathematics was pointing toward and struggling to reach. The Vedic rishis, sitting in contemplation on the banks of the Sarasvati thousands of years ago, were asking the same questions that physicists ask today at the Large Hadron Collider. Where does reality come from? What is the relationship between the observer and the observed? Is separation real, or is it ultimately an appearance? They arrived at an answer. 3,000 years ago. We are still working on the proof. Sarvam Khalv Idam Brahma. All of this is indeed one. Friends, if this video stirred something in you, a sense of wonder, a recognition, a feeling that you have heard this truth somewhere before, please do 3 things for us right now. First, like this video. It takes 1 second, and it tells the universe and the YouTube algorithm that this content has value. Second, share this video. Send it to one person, a friend, a family member, anyone who stands at the crossroads between science and spirit and wonders if they have to choose. Show them they do not. Third, subscribe to Spirituality Joy and ring the notification bell, because we have so much more to explore together. The Vedic understanding of time and the Big Bang, the mathematics of consciousness, the ancient sages who described the cosmos before telescopes existed. Every week we go deeper. And we would love for you to come with us. Tell us in the comments. Which physicist surprised you the most, Schrödinger reading the Upanishads while writing his equations? Heisenberg saying Vedanta makes quantum physics make sense? Or Oppenheimer, the man who built the bomb, learning Sanskrit to read the Gita in its original words? Write it below. I read every single comment. Until next time, Sarvam Khalv Idam Brahma. All of this is one. Namaste. Jai Jagannath.